Right. Well, did you know what was going on?
No, I didn't know what was going on in these terms. Let's be very clear. You know, there were things that parties decided they needed not to know. And clearly there were things the DUP decided they needed not to know in relation to this whole thing. Let's be very clear, whenever the controversial Northern Ireland Offences Bill came forward in 2005, the thrust of the DUP opposition to that bill was not to stop the bill, which is what the SDLP were trying to do. It was to make sure that the blame for that bill hung around David Trimble's neck, saying it went back to Weston Park, that it was all part of Weston Park. And of course the British government went along with them on that by saying it all went back to Weston Park. The record will show, if anybody reads...
We opposed we opposed the bill.
Sorry, Jeffrey, I didn't interrupt you.
But don't misrepresent the DUP.
I will challenge anyone.
We opposed the bill at every turn.
Okay, well, let's
be very clear.
Let him make his point, Jeffrey.
I want to be very clear about this. Peter Robinson, who sat on that bill committee, made it clear to me personally that he thought I was overdoing it in opposing the bill, that he thought I was foolish in believing I could stop the bill, that it was a done deal, but that they were making it clear that it was done by David Trimble. You only have to read the minutes of that bill committee to see that every time Sylvia Herman spoke from the UUP, it was put on her as to do with Weston Park. Peter and Jeffrey and Sammy on the bill committee, they made it clear that their job was to make sure that everybody associated this with Weston Park. It was never made a deal breaker by the DUP. And Jim, you were in the DUP at that stage. You didn't leave them for over a year. You mightn't have been there, but you knew exactly what was in that bill. And you knew what was in the bill. The bill was public. Everybody knew what was in the bill. It was not been made a deal breaker. How the First and Deputy First Minister was going to be appointed was going to be a deal breaker for the DUP. A review about North-South bodies was a deal breaker for the DUP. But this scheme to give a wide open amnesty, not just this thing to on the runs, but to everybody and anybody, that was never a deal breaker for the DUP. Just so long as David Trimble could take the blame. So let's be clear. So let's be clear about that. Now, after the bill was withdrawn, another scheme came forward. And remember, what the records in front of the court showed was that Gerry Adams expressed a preference for an invisible process. Now, on the one hand, it can't be an invisible process as preferred by Sinn Fein. On the other hand, we're being told, oh, this was open and transparent.
All right,
and everybody
come
knew.
back now, Jeffrey Donaldson.
Well, talk about rewriting history. I mean, Mark, I take my hat off to you. I thought the Sinn Féin were past masters at it. The sentences bill was withdrawn precisely because
it was
withdrawn because the DUP made absolutely clear to the government, and I was in the meetings when this was made clear to the government, that if this legislation was passed, then it would be totally unacceptable to the DUP. The DUP voted against it, Mark. That's on the record at every turn. That was what we were mandated to do. So please don't try to rewrite history and suggest that somehow we were in favour
If anybody looks at the
amnesty.
record of that bill committee and the amendments and all the rest, that people will see the thrust, and people will see it's true in what I'm saying, and I'm not the only one who made that observation.
Well, that's rich if you try to take the moral high ground on this, Alex.
I am taking the high ground because the issue of honour. Yes, I am, because we very vociferously and focally made sure that we kept the issue of the on runs, as with all of the other issues, on the agenda, and we will continue to do it until we get a result.
I want to come back to the Minister for the victims.
Record shows that at Weston Park, some of us wanted to deal with the past. Sinn Féin's focus was entirely on the runs. Hillsborough 2003. On the runs were addressed in Hillsborough 2003. The proposal for a victims forum, looking at the past, was rejected by Sinn Féin. It wasn't in the OTRs. That was Sinn Féin's
you want to bring this back to Westminster,
not dealing with the past. It was purely about them and their own. And what the whole thing in the court case proves is that every time
you went against individual families' wishes in Western
Finish the sentence, Mark. You want to bring this
we never went against individual families'
Sorry,
we never went against individual families' wishes, because we were looking to deal with the past at a number of levels. Sinn Féin only wanted to deal with the OTRs, didn't want to address some other families' wishes. You went against families' wishes.